Alright. Tiatay Shiner. I'm married, now what? Alright. Can you tell us a little about the book and what inspired you to write it?
So the book was inspired by my daughter Michaela. I wanted her to have either like a guideline or a blueprint for what to expect when she decides to get married or if she decides to get married. I thought that was important because I feel like I didn't have those tools when I first became a newlywed. And I think that it would be informational for people who are deciding that they want to get married or considering marriage in the future, or if they're dating and wanting to someday be married. It just kind of gives you an idea of what to expect.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and challenges?
My childhood, I was raised by my father. My parents divorced when I was young, so I was raised in a single parent household by my father. My father was very strict but very supportive. He talked about the importance of education and getting good grades, and what else? Being independent, being self-sufficient. My mom was there. She picked us up on the weekends and on the summer vacations. She taught me about religion. She taught me about being feminine, taking care of my appearance, things like that.
You mentioned in the book that you made some mistakes in your past marriage. What are some of the mistakes you made and how it affected your relationship?
In my previous marriage, I would say just not having the tools, not having the support, not knowing how to handle conflict, not knowing what to expect within the marriage. And so because neither one of us came from a two-parent household, not knowing how to fight for the marriage, how to communicate problems and resolve them.
I read your book and I believe it's going to help marriages. What are you hoping readers take from your book?
I'm hoping that they're able to gain something from the book, whether it be how to handle finances within the relationship, how to communicate within the relationship, how to juggle work-life balance, because that's a big thing nowadays. I have so many friends that I talk to, and everybody has the same issue. You know, I work a full-time job. I'm taking care of the kids. I'm taking care of the house. I feel like I'm doing it all on my own. I wish my spouse would support me more. So just knowing how to navigate that is always good. Like I said, communication styles. I learned about communication styles. Not everybody communicates the same way. Some people, I have a more direct approach. My husband, not so much. And so just learning how to talk to each other is good.
Was there any point in writing a book it was difficult to revisit past memories of them?
I think revisiting my childhood was kind of tough. I didn't realize how much of my childhood played a part into my current relationships or how I handle certain situations within my relationship, and just reliving that, revisiting those moments, learning from them, getting them out was therapeutic and healing. And hopefully by writing this book, I can help somebody else or help my daughter in the future.
Okay, how does your current marriage differ from your past one?
In my current marriage, because I was previously married, I feel like I have more experience. I feel like I know what to expect. I have more patience. I'm better able to help him understand certain things in my way of thinking. Versus in my previous marriage, I was completely new to the whole thing. I didn't know anything about being married or what it took to be married or be a supportive spouse or anything like that. So that has contributed to my current marriage and have made us be able to communicate better, last longer, have more fun.
Okay, looking back, if you can go and give yourself advice to your younger self before entering into your first marriage, what would it be?
Honestly, if I could do it all over again, I would say not marry somebody who has been previously married, just because I want to experience those first together, the first time being married, the first time having children, vacationing, all of those things, just doing it differently. I mean, I wouldn't choose a different partner per se, but just finding somebody to experience those first with.
Okay, some people believe staying in the unhappy marriage is better for the children and then getting a divorce. How do you feel about that?
I don't know that I can necessarily speak to that because I wasn't raised that way. Like I said, in my upbringing, my father was married and divorced 3 times, and the lesson I basically learned is if something is not working and the person has expressed that they no longer want to be married or no longer want to work on a relationship, then you grant their wishes and you all go your separate ways. Nobody taught me how to fight for the marriage and how to make things work. You would want everybody to be happy, but you know, that's not always the case. There are going to be challenges that come along the way. Staying in it for the sake of the children, I don't know if that's a good thing, because let's say if you're in it and you're not getting along and you're arguing or it's toxic, you don't want your children to see that. You don't want them to think that that's a normal way of how to co-parent, how to be in a relationship or whatever. So it's a lot of different factors that you have to take into place.
Okay, your book includes women having masculine energy, right? Talk a little bit about that.
So feminine and masculine energy is something that I just learned about within the last year or two. I think I came across it from having a conversation with a male coworker actually, who referred me to this podcast with this lady who was talking about feminine energy and the feminine universe and how to be softer and how to be more vulnerable. And I think at that time in my current marriage, I was displaying a lot of masculine characteristics or personalities or whatever, and I think a lot of that stemmed from coming out of my previous marriage into my new marriage and just having this whole, I don't need you, I can do it on my own, I can figure it out on my own, and having that attitude created a lot of tension between us. But once I stepped back and allowed him to lead and me to play my role, to play my position, to stay in my lane, we started to get along a whole lot better. So just, I don't know, not necessarily catering to him per se, but just being more submissive, being more not so argumentative, not so confrontational, not so nitpicky. Still having a voice, but just not working.
Did you see any good examples of marriage coming up?
On TV, yes. A lot of my examples and experiences that I have, I say I relate to TV shows like The Cosby Show or Roseanne or Leave It to Beaver. Those were some of the shows that I watched in my personal life. At the time when I got married, everybody around me were just getting married too, so we were all starting out together. As far as like my aunts, they had been married and divorced, but nobody talked about what transpired throughout the marriage or whatever. By the time I came along, they were already divorced, so it was nothing to really look to. And then a lot of the people that were married, like older, 50s, 60s, and I'm in my 20s, so of course I didn't relate to that because it just didn't translate for me.
Okay, one thing about this book, it kind of tell you everything to expect when you get married. Like I had pre-counseling marriage, and you really went through everything. So this is a good book.
I think I was able to go through everything, being married, being divorced, and then remarrying again. I kind of got a little bit of everything. A lot of people, one of the things when I was writing the book, I was like, okay, well, why would somebody want to read this book? Why would they listen to me? And they're going to say, well, how long have you been married? And what makes you qualified to write this book? And I think that you don't have to be married for a long time in order to go through experiences and learn lessons. Like, even in that short period of time, even in this current marriage, even a short period of time, we've gone through financial losses. We've lost relatives. We've had to allow other people to come into our homes. You know, we've combined families. And that's just in a matter of a few years. It doesn't take a long time in order to cover those things.
Okay, what's next for you, both in your personal life and as an author? And do you have any future writing?
As an author, I want to continue to write. I want to continue to share my story. I want to continue to be a living testimony to other people. I have a few projects in mind. I have a book about 30 days of prayer and gratitude. I'm really big on gratitude and being grateful, being humble, appreciating all of the blessings that the Lord has given to me and sharing them with other people. I have a book that I'm working on about peace over everything, because that's really important to me, especially since the pandemic. I'm big on energy. I don't like being around people who have negative energy, negative spirits, I try to help and assist as much as I can, but at some point I just kind of separate myself from it because I just don't want to be bothered with it. Um, I also have a book that I'm working on about dating. I think that that's very important. I have young children ages 14 and 15. They're entering the dating scene, and so I want to have conversations with them that I didn't necessarily have with my parents to prepare them for dating. You know, they live in a different time now. They have social media, they have Google, they have the TV. They're learning things that they may not be age appropriate for, but because everything is being given to them so quickly, we have to counteract and get ahead of that. So it's forcing me to have uncomfortable conversations with them, but they're necessary conversations. And so that, as far as my personal life, just continue to be a good mother, a good wife, continue to excel within my career, continue to travel, because that's my favorite thing to do, and eat at nice restaurants, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, where can we find your book?
So the book is located, you can find it on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, livingwater.org. You can purchase it from me directly, and I think it should be in Target and Walmart as well.
That's about all I had to say.
Thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate you.
All right, thank you. Okay, in your book you talk about co-parenting. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So prior to my marriage, I had only dated one other person who had a child. And unfortunately, because of the relationship that he had with the child's mother, I didn't get to really spend that much time with his child or spend time with the child's mother, get to build a relationship with her. So when I got married, my husband had 2 children, and they were small children, and I was kind of concerned, okay, how am I going to show them love or whatever, accept them, bring them in or whatever. And my main goal was just to treat them the same way I would if they were my own birth biological children or whatever, establish a relationship with them. And then also I thought it was important to have a relationship with their mother, because you see so many households that have dysfunctional relationships when they have children outside of the marriage or whatever, and you're trying to bring everybody in, blend them together, whatever. And so I wanted to make sure that we had a good solid foundation for the children or whatever, make the mother feel welcome to, ask any questions or whatever. Just wanting to have their whole family unit, I thought was important, because I thought I wanted the children to know that they are loved by everybody. There is no separation just because their parents are not together anymore.
What about work-life balance? I understood you worked a whole lot of hours and, trying to balance that out with your marriage. And what advice you have for that?
Work-life balance, it takes a lot of effort. It has to be a priority for you. At the time, like I said, I was in retail management. I was working a lot of hours. I had a small child. Once we had our daughter, just making that adjustment to, okay, how do I fit this all in? How do I work? How do I still show time for my husband? How do I make time for my daughter? How do I make sure that everything is taken care of? And you have to be selfless in those moments or whatever. You have to put your children and your spouse first above yourself in order to get everything done. It's going to be, also you have to have communication too, and let your partner know, hey, if you're feeling weak or you can't do this, just having that communication so that way you have a system in place that way neither person feels burnt out.
Okay. Infidelity in marriage. Infidelity. What?
I spoke about infidelity because I think that that's a big thing right now. You see so many young couples that are getting divorced because of infidelity, with the increase in social media and DMs and side chicks and all these other things or whatever. And it's like there's so much temptation out there, and if you're not strong, if you're not founded in God, if you don't have a good relationship with your spouse or good communication, you can easily fall victim to that. You have to know how to you have to know how to resist the temptation, how to fight the urges, and even have uncomfortable conversations. One thing about her marriage is we are willing to have uncomfortable conversations, even if it hurts your feelings at that time. At least you know where your spouse stands. You know what they're thinking. You can better adjust, better be able to help them. But if you don't say anything, then that person doesn't know. That person doesn't know how to help you out. And then you're more likely to start talking to this person on the side, creeping with this person over here, or whatever. So just resisting those temptations, having that communication in place.
Another thing in your book, you talked about the bedroom, and I'm a married man myself. It could get kind of, I don't want to say boring, but routine, and fighting routine. So talk about that.
That's important too, because when that falls, then the infidelity comes into play or whatever. So you want to make sure that you are doing what you can to keep the spice in your relationship. And sex and intimacy, I'm learning what intimacy is. It's not just the physical all the time. It's the emotional connection that you have with somebody. If you're spending time with your spouse, that's considered intimacy or whatever. When you're talking, that's considered intimacy. If you all have date night or movie night, or you go shopping together, anytime you're spending time together, you're creating intimacy or whatever. And then that leads into the sex. That makes the sex better or whatever. So it's necessary, it's needed. You have to, again, stay in constant communication. Otherwise, and a lot of the times both spouses may feel the same way, but because you're not communicating, you don't know that your spouse may have the same needs that you have.
What do you feel your purpose is of being a wife?
Of being a wife, I'm a nurturer, I'm a caregiver, I'm a supporter. I play all the roles, whatever is needed in that moment, I kind of do. I'm the helpmate. Sometimes I'm the leader. Sometimes I have to sit back and allow my spouse to lead or whatever. But just being available, being willing to assist in whatever capacity is needed. I often get teased because people are like, I can't believe you outside cutting grass. I'll cut grass, I'll take out trash, I will do whatever is necessary and needed to maintain my household. Like, it's a give and take. Sometimes the roles shift.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
I think that's it.
Okay, y'all pick up this book now. I'm Married Not What? Tiatay Shiner.